This podcast is brought to you by Casa de la Zisa, and by Shattered Justice.
Of members of a so-called religious cult, with a leader they call Zisa, has had three of its followers arrested in the investigation of the murder of Sharon Tate and six others. Those arrested are two women and one man, and the Los Angeles police said they would ask murder indictments against several others. 5 women are being held as material witnesses.
The major scale and the circle of fifths are a topic for today. So, a major scale is a diatonic scale, 7 tones. The pattern can be divided into 2 parts, 2 what we call tetrachords: whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Whole step is 2 frets on the guitar. Half step is 1 fret. If we do the fingering on one string, we can see this more clearly. Whole step, half step. That was C, D, E, F. Next group, whole step, and half step. G, A, B, C. C, D, E, F, and G, A, B, C. And the last 2, E and F and B and C, are our half steps. Now notice the fingering as I did that on one string. I did first position, then I skipped a whole step, and then half step. I kept the same fingering that I would do across the strings. So I added the 4th finger for the note G. The next tetrachord goes A, B, C. So we have G, A, B, C. What is the advantage of doing the scale on one string? Well, you can practice on your shifts and try to make them seamless, very legato. But you also can see exactly what you're doing in terms of the scale itself. And you can teach yourself more notes on that one string. So the notes C to C that I just did would be the same as from this C all the way up to this C on the 1st string, 8th fret. If I do it all on one string, that same note C on the 8th fret of the 1st string is C on the 2nd string, 13th fret. The correlation between these notes is really helpful for you to become more familiar with your fretboard. The circle of fifths and the flat keys. Last video I did was on the circle of fifths, and was the sharp keys: C, G, D, A, E. This time, we're going to look at the flat keys. And you're going to notice that there is a difference. When we did the sharp keys, we started here and we moved this direction, from C to open G to open D to open A to open E. Let's start with C. And when we played E and F, were the half steps, and B and C for the half steps, we did a little bit of an emphasis on the E and softer on the F. Same on the note B to C. And so you can practice that musicality. Okay. Down 5 from C is F. Now there's 2 places we can play an F: on the 1st string and on the 6th string. But it would be the same pattern fingering I just did. F and G, A, B flat C, D, E, F. If we go from the 2nd string to the 6th string for the 1st flat, we will find that the rest of the keys that we're going to cover will just come straight across. Yeah. So we're going to go from the key of C to the key of A flat. We're going to cover 4 flats. So we had C, which we just did, and the key of F, we had one flat. Now, you'll notice, different than the sharp keys, the accidental that we add is not coming at the end on the leading tone like it was for the sharp keys. It's coming in the middle. We would have had 3 whole steps from F to G, G to A to B would be 3 whole steps. For a major scale, we need whole step, half step. And that's why we alter the note B flat. The rest of the scale will go whole step, half step between E and F. So this scale goes F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Let's try that again together. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Now if we continue circle of fifths, we're going down 5 rather than going up 5 now. So we went from C to F. Down 5 from F is going to be B flat, because the last flat we played is now the beginning of the new key. So that's something interesting to observe. So if we have B flat, we're going to add another flat. Let's see. It's going to be in the same place. Notice we had done that on the 4th note when we were in F. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the note B flat. And the next key is going to be across from this, 4 notes above B flat, which is E flat, right there. So I start on the 5th string, 1st fret for B flat, C, D, E flat. Now I'm going to do F, shift up for G, A, B flat, B flat, C, D, E flat, our new flat, F, G, A, B flat. Now can we do this across the string as well? Yes. So what's the advantage of doing it on one string? Well, several different things that can help you. One, you're going to get to know that scale, which you could have done across the string, can be applied across this fretboard. So notes up here, like this note B flat, you now become aware, oh, could have been played here. Same notes, but a little bit different tone. Could I kept on going on this 5th position? Yes. Same fingering as the shift. 1, 3, 4. But the same will be true when I go from the 5th string to the 4th string. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. So the B flat, A to B flat is that half step. Listen again. Could I have done that straight across the strings? I would have been in 5th position in that case. 2, 4. 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. So now we've got 4 different ways we could have done it. This way. And we could have also done it. And we could have also done it. Or all in 5th position. All of those notes would have been written exactly the same. So now you've got some options in terms of how you finger those notes on the bass strings. So if we continue, we started with C, we went to F with 1 flat, B flat with 2 flats. Next flat is E flat on the 4th string, 1st fret. 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. But on the 4th fret will be the new flat. E flat, F, G, A flat. So we'll be adding 1 more flat. We'll still have B flat, and we'll still have E flat. So E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. It's a little tricky as you kind of go up there to remember what letter is following which and get really familiar with these notes. Again, one more time. E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. And again, you could have just gone straight across on some of these, right? So we had E flat. If I do E flat in 5th position, would have gone just like that. Could have gone just like that. And we've now got several different ways we could do that. Okay, the last one. And the last one is A flat. Again, same fingering, A flat, B flat, C, and the new flat is D flat. A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. Try again. A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. Now this one's easier you don't have to worry about the squeaks as much. On the bass strings we have the squeaks, but on the 3rd string, being it's kind of a plastic nylon, but still making it legato. And playing the note C to D flat and squeezing the C a little bit, playing it a little louder and softer on the D flat. And the same is true when we went from the note G to A flat. Let's do a quick review. Quick review. 1st position, first C. For the note F, we can do it on the 6th string. B flat's the next key. And the E flat. One more time. And A flat. Okay, that covers the flat keys. You hopefully have now got more comfortable with how to do that, and don't forget, you can play these flat keys across the string. A flat, F. And we had B flat. That'd be 5th position. E flat. And A flat we could do in 3rd position. If we do it in 5th position, we have to make a little modification at the end. We have to shift up because the distance between the 3rd and 2nd string is a major 3rd, and so we have to make up that difference of 1 fret by shifting up from 5th position to 6th position. Okay, that covers it all. If you have questions, if you have comments, please post them below. If you wish to write to me with your questions, there's an email at the end of this video. Have a great week, great practice, and until next time. CDZ Classica Musica is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It is a kind of school of music, a concert series, and an agency that promotes the musicians, dedicated artists, and educators who we feature as our performers. The goal of the Collegium is to bring community together through music performance. These performances vary in musical style from classical to jazz, and music from different parts of the world, from India to the Middle East, that'd be like Persia, and Japan, and China. The goal is to also educate us to how music functions, not so much as a musical universal language, because there are differences in the way that these languages of music are expressed, but to educate us to be able to be more appreciative, not only of the music, but the culture it represents. And by doing this, it brings community together. And
recording is in progress.
we're ready to go here.
Rock and roll.
Let's see here. So it's been a while. It's nice to see you. Yeah, it's been
Great to
a
see you, Peter.
year since we saw each other at the guitar festival, and
That's right.
that was fantastic. It was quite an amazing event.
Thank you.
Yeah, so well organized, and um, the first time I got to hear you with Jacob Reuven, I thought that was really tremendous, and his ensemble was when they did the Vivaldi concerto with the mandolins. Um,
I think one of the, I mean, there are many facets to the University of Rhode Island Guitar Mandolin Festival, but the newest and freshest facet to all of it is the mandolin component. And Jacob Reuven has been a champion of classical mandolin, which is in many ways foreign to Americans and really to many around the world as a classical instrument, and specifically championing violin repertoire on the mandolin. And so Jacob and I have we became a duo in 2017, and ever since then, I thought that it would be an ideal platform to promote this philosophy, these ideals of violin repertoire on the classical mandolin, and his students, the next generation, are doing wonderful things and are really the torchbearers for the classical mandolin world.
yeah, I'm well. That's part of our conversation today was going to be exploring. It's interesting. We've known each other for now 9 years, and things take time to develop. It's been wonderful over the course of the last 9 years um, to watch and participate in your presence here in Oregon, but also to see your development in terms of your teaching at the university, the expansion of the Guitar Festival, your nonprofit, and your solo as well as chamber music exploits promotion of new music. The list goes on. So I'm real pleased to be able to introduce you to our Portland and Corvallis audiences. And I want you to know that the next time you come out here, I think you should bring Jacob. We have a mandolin orchestra out here, and in fact, the person in charge of it, I think actually knows Jacob and participated in some events when he was back east in your neck of the
Oh,
woods. So it would be, I think, a great thing. It's a pretty substantial group, and they have included guitar in the orchestra. So, in fact, one of my friends and colleagues over the years actually is now retired from her teaching duties at the community college and is participating in that orchestra. So it's
oh,
pretty.
nice. Yeah, I mean, there are the amount of mandolin orchestras across the United States is unbelievable. The community is probably stronger than ever. I mean, my father is a guitar aficionado and mandolin aficionado, and was a member of the Milwaukee Mandolin Orchestra. And I remember going to the rehearsals with him when I was a kiddo. So the sound of a mandolin resonates strong, has and still resonates strong in my body, and it seems to be everywhere. And so I think the opportunity to bring Jacob out there and for him to engage that group would be fantastic.
Well, we will definitely explore that. I know the person who does most of the promotion and stuff, and I'll contact him because I think that with his help, he probably be able to make that happen. And it would be great if it could even include the orchestra. I think that would
Of course.
ensure, they performed at pretty substantial places and they draw big crowds. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, this was a nice segue because I wanted to get uh, to know how did it all begin? I mean, that very famous song, where does it all begin? In terms of your love for guitar and so forth. And you've already hinted that your father probably played a big role in it. So tell us
Absolutely.
about that.
Yeah, so my mom and dad, my mom played piano, my dad played guitar, still plays guitar, and was sort of stolen away from the violin world when the Beatles came out, and he never looked back, and fell in love with the sound of Martin guitars, of Jimi Hendrix and the electric guitar, Eric Clapton and that whole world. But at the same time, he was sort of captivated by the sound that Andres Segovia produced, and that yeah, he fell in love with the classical guitar as well, and I know he took lessons as a child and throughout his youth, and then even when I was playing, when I started out, I started when I was 7. I started with piano first, and then made the segue to guitar. And my dad, of course, played a very important role in my guitar education and development as a musician. We would play duos, and then when my sister Adrienne started, we played trios, and we were members of the Chicago Classical Guitar Society, and we saw everybody, Bream, Fisk, Isbin, Barwaco, all the winners of the big competitions. Anybody who was anybody ended up in Chicago, and we would go see them. And it was the guitar was something that unified our family. It was something that sort of stole us away from the Sturm und Drang of the regular day chaos, and we always made a special event out of it. So yeah, my dad played a major role in that, and I remember as I got more serious, he was like, well, you're a busy kid. You have homework after school, sports after school, karate, this, that, everything. When is there time to practice?
Hmm.
The answer was before school. You hear about these kids getting up for swimming practice at 6 a.m. and track at 5 a.m., whatever. I was up at 5 a.m. Practicing. I took my mom to the train station. I was in the practice seat at 5:30, and there was no choice. It didn't matter how tired I was. But it was a beautiful time because you were not distracted by anything. That you could hear the chirping birds, and you could hear the notes coming out of the classical guitar. And even though I was disastrously tired, there was a certain clarity even in the tiredom that allowed me to excel. I think much faster than if I had done it at any other time during the day. And then my sister, when she's 4.5 years younger, when she was ready to begin, she started as well. And I remember even there'd be several times when my dad started seeing 7 o'clock patients. He's a clinical psychologist. Once he walked out the door, we would sort of wait long enough where we were like, okay, do you think it's safe to go back to sleep? So we would go on the couch. We would fall back asleep and to get some more rest. And not a couple, but many times my dad came back to check. We're like scrambling, moving around to get back into the practice room. I was like, oh yeah, Dad, I was just going to the bathroom, or I just wanted to get a snack. So it was. To many families and to many people, it'd be like, oh my gosh, that's overbearing. It's helicopter parents, tiger parents, you're gonna, and it was a lot. But the one thing that it really instilled in me, even though my mom was not our teacher, the one thing my parents instilled was what it means to be excellent at something. I think, more and more today you see young people trying to do everything, but really accomplishing nothing. And I've been as I'm getting older and hopefully a little bit wiser, I'm realizing that I'm really invested in high impact and results with high impact training, and not only enriching young people in the world of classical guitar, but also ensuring that they understand what it means to be excellent, taking something from A to Z. And that's an important thing, especially today when with one swipe you're onto another you're onto another thing, or you're on Spotify and you're on one track in one moment, and then another. There's no cohesiveness anymore. And I think the greatest battle we have today is attention span. And so, to go back to what my parents and my father did, is this is your period of time with the guitar. And for you to delve into that world, whatever, you won't accomplish anything this day, but you're with the guitar. And it was a really beautiful, as I reflect on it, it was a really beautiful time in my life. The one that was unlike any other, in many respects. So that was my childhood, and that lasted through high school. And then I studied with Ann Waller and Mark Maxwell in high school, and then went on to Northwestern University, where at that time I wasn't 100% sure I was going to become a musician professionally. But in my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to be a professional musician who tours around the world. I'm also going to be a physician that takes care of people's problems, or I was going to solve many things at once. And as I got deeper and deeper into the music world, I realized that it was impossible to do all those things. So I think it really, towards the end of my undergraduate career, I began to realize that I would have to shift in one direction or the other. And my teacher, Ann Waller, encouraged me to go study with Oscar Gilia, the late, perhaps one of the greatest, if not the greatest, pedagogue of the 20th, the late 20th and early 21st century, a true poet, somebody who was unrelenting in his pursuit of musicianship and understanding the building blocks of interpretation and musicianship. He too had high standards, and it didn't matter who you were, where you came from. It was these are the building blocks, and it sometimes came off as harsh, but the beauty behind the way in which he presented it was again incomparable to any other teacher that I had worked with. I mean, and you saw tentacles of what he taught in his students. Ann Waller, Mark Maxwell, Elliot Fisk. These were his disciples, and you could see strains of his understanding and philosophies in his students, and then passed along to the musical grandchildren, the great grandchildren, and so forth. And it was going to Siena, that journey to Siena, that made me realize that music was my path. And he encouraged me to go into music and never look back. And so even after doing pre-med, psychology, classical guitar performance undergrad, a 5-year double degree program, never-ending study sessions, and taking my MCAT, I eventually abandoned that all for music, and it was the greatest choice I ever made. I have Gilia to thank for that, and because he brought me into a world that was paradise, and I've never left. It's been a period of constant growth and rebirth and reimagination and going deeper into the musical world and bringing people along with me, audiences, my students, the next generation of young guitarists. It's been such a beautiful path, and it's the hardest path ever. Being a musician it's a Herculean sport. Nothing that I know of is is more challenging because you're creating something out of nothing. It's dust, and then you're supposed to uh, create a career, survive, make a living, feed a family. There's all these things that are really tough to do, and it all goes back to music and interpret and being able the conduit between the composer and the audience. And so I've been lucky from Northwestern those days to studying with Gilia to also studying with Elliot Fisk, who is still to this day like a second dad and a mentor to me. But he was one who lit the fire under me. He was like the jetpack. Like every time I went to visit, I had the fortune of going to study, being his only private student in college, and going to Boston once a month or every 2 months to learn from him. And over those 5 years of undergrad, when I had Ann Waller as my guide and mentor, and then Elliot Fisk as well, together, this was like this giant musical force field that it felt like they were injecting me with all this energy, this potential energy to just take on the world. And that's exactly what I did. I did my master's in Boston, and then I realized that, it's one thing playing arrangements and pieces of the past, but, the story goes on, and someone's got to tell that story. And not that I'm any more special than anybody else out there, but I wanted to seize the moment. And one of the things that always was curious to me was what's next, or first, what is the Spanish sound? I'm a white gringo from the Midwest. I don't understand. I grew up so far and distant from the Spanish sound. Like, I mean, to me, it was all like caricatures. There was nothing. It was not based on anything. So I went to the heartland. I went to Spain for 3 years as a Fulbright Scholar, and I began to investigate what is the Spanish sound. Where did it come from? How do I, as a foreigner to Spain, how do I carry some of that with me, and bring that authenticity to my own interpretations? That was an amazing. Forget the Spanish music for a second. Just going to another country and navigating a world that is so foreign to everything is the most humbling and beautiful experience. To engage in philosophical, political, social conversations with Spaniards, people who have come from very different background than I did, was incredible. It was priceless. And then going back to music, having the opportunity to cultivate a new body of repertoire, just like those people who I grew up adoring and looking up to. The Segovias, the Fisk, Isbin, Barwaco, anybody who was commissioned and contributed to the great line of compositions for the instrument. It was so cool to be in a place where I could start doing it myself. I can make my mark and create the at least a portion of the next generation of Spanish repertoire. And I think there's a segment of repertoire that I have created, or that I commissioned and recorded and performed, that I think fills in a necessary gap in the repertoire, and it's there for the entire world to enjoy. And it was so cool to be able to work with these composers one on one, and to get into each one of their minds and sonic worlds and composition worlds, and talk to them about what they were feeling, what their influences were, and then try to bring that out in my interpretations, and then to the public, and for all of them for the first time. And it's about 10 million% more difficult than playing a piece that's already in the repertoire. And the reason is because, again, you are the one bringing a fresh, brand new interpretation to the public. It's like investing in penny stocks. You don't know, maybe some of them will stick, others might disappear. You never know, but you have this great responsibility on your shoulders to about the most profound interpretation possible. And so it was the greatest honor. It still is the greatest honor to play and champion those pieces and to share it with the world. And these pieces came from all different styles and genres and influences, and some of them people will love, some of them people won't like at all. But if they walk away liking something, that's great. There was a collection of 30 pieces, if not more, from that project that I commissioned. So everyone's gonna find something that they like, and it's something that Spanish music is so iconic in the guitar world, and it was a great opportunity to encourage young people to find composers. They don't have to be Spanish, but just find a composer and have them write a piece for them. It really keeps the guitar moving forward. We have to be progressive and in furthering the instrument. So that was fantastic. And then I came back after 3 years, some of the best times of my life in Spain, and I met so many new friends, many of which I'm still in touch with. Every time I go back to Spain, which has been many, many times, it's like a second home. And I tell because I had such a powerful experience there, just below requiring my students to do this, but I highly encourage my students to get out of their comfort zone. Go to a different city in the States, or go to another state, or even better yet, go to another country. Engage in conversation and cultural exchange. Learn another language. These are all gateways to new worlds. So it has such a profound impact. And then the Fulbright Scholarship. I mean, it's this network that follows me around everywhere. It's everywhere I go. There's Fulbright this, Fulbright that, and it's a beautiful network. It's a wonderful government sponsored program.
I'm looking for a girl named Dana. Does she still work here?
I don't know any Dana.
I'm your father.
CPS took my daughter. Got into some really big trouble.
What kind of trouble?
No.
The body of Dana Delgado was discovered this morning.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Dana, Peter, and Antonio worked for a corporation called SIC.
We have to get out of town. Antonio sold us out.
I know things.
What kind of things? If you were doing your job, detective, and find the killer.
People you're after, they own this city. In a city where corruption often lurks in the shadows, most killers walk free.
So came back from Spain, and then I was like, I got to figure life out. So I ended up coming back to Boston.
When you were in Spain, and how long?
So I was, let's see, I would basically from 26 to 29, 28 and a half. And then I came back, and Boston seemed like the best place to land. And I started to cultivate a career, and that started, I would teach at community college and then UMass Boston. Then I joined the faculty at URI, University of Rhode Island, in 2015. So there was a grace period where it was kind of murky, insecure, spaghetti, eating SpaghettiOs. It was, and then I sort of figured it all out. And again, like, figuring it out means putting yourself out there, being an ambassador for your instrument, advocating for yourself constantly. I think the sooner that young people can realize the phone ain't gonna pick itself up, you gotta call people, you gotta communicate with people, you gotta write to people, and you gotta be a badass classical guitarist. It's like it's this whole package, and not and then on top of that, you have to be lucky. There's this X factor that you can't control, and that's true for everybody. You can study your brains out, but you still might not get a break, and vice versa.
That's one of the things that I think that is especially challenging, I think, for young musicians in this day and age. And yet the advantages that are there still kind of balance it. Being older than you, my beginnings were before internet. So everything was making writing a letter. You didn't get most of those brochures would land in a trash can as opposed to landing from a response. You could make
Yeah.
a call. You have to develop an alter ego, or maybe you can hire a representative, and that person may take your money but not do very much for you. So nowadays, I think that the opportunities are there in that we can connect with people directly. I mean, in the case for you, you knew, I think it was James Manueli that recommended, although I have a number of your friends who have come out and performed here in Oregon, and it was really a network that, allowed to take place. I know that guitarists sometimes can be so working on their own world and their own career that they don't really see that the landscape really requires a lot of support and cooperation in order for there to cultivate a career where you can have your audiences looking forward and anticipating the next time that you come. And that is an important process. And as you're talking about what makes that transition. So practicing in your room and practicing and preparing for programs is one part of it that you have to be. And having something that really is your own statement, whether, if we hear a piece of music that is part of the standard repertoire and is played exactly like 99% of guitars play it, then it's practically worthless because we've already heard it that way. So providing a new look and a new interpretation is as difficult as learning a new piece of music that no one's heard. And at that same time, you have to cultivate that understanding on your own. You're not relying on someone else's listening. I wonder how Julian Bream played that. Well, I should play it like that, or Oscar Giglia or Segovia or whoever. That process, when you're working with a composer, is different because their expectations sometimes can be pretty demanding, and at the same time give you much more room for interchange and interaction with them, because they may not know the guitar as well as you do. They say, "Oh, I'm trying to do this." Okay, well, you're educating them as much as the other. So all of this process is really important. I think that what I'd like you to maybe give some advice, if I may be so bold to ask, for those people who are at that spot of thinking, maybe I would like to do this, but my parents tell me, or my friends tell me, or my teachers told me, it's too hard. And the odds of you being able to make a career out of being a musician is very difficult. So how do you go about that? How do you go about, you graduate from a college, and now there are not that many college positions. Very difficult to find a college position. Over the years, I taught at a variety of universities, and now I look at some of the young people coming through and I realize there's very little chance for them to have that. So then what do you do? I I mean, because that's yeah. So
I,
you have any
well,
advice?
it goes like it actually starts at the beginning of your undergraduate experience. I mean, if you're going down the performance route or music education or the various degree possibilities, one, you have to ask yourself a very important question, and is, can you imagine yourself doing anything else? And if the answer is yes, and this is a difficult thing to say, I would say go do it, because music is such a rocky and difficult and unpredictable field that if you're not devoted 1,000% to it, it will likely not work out. I know it sounds really extreme, but it's an honest question. If something else is tugging at you, you should pursue it. But if the answer is I can't imagine a world in which music, classical guitar, whatever it is that you're studying, I can't imagine a world without it. That is the flame where the rest of it comes from. It's the unrelenting flame that where passion comes from, and where it's the propellant for a career. So once you answer yes, I can't imagine myself doing anything else, then you've got a ton of possibilities ahead of you. And I think what I recommend people to do is, one, learn how to write. Everybody's like, and people are like, wait, what? You mean you learn how to play classical guitar? No, learn how to write. Writing is a means to communicating with other people. And the more that you can write, especially since email, text, whatever, the sooner that you can learn how to write eloquently and succinctly and in a way that represents your voice, the better off you'll be. Learn how to write. Two, learn how to get up before a group of people and tell a story, because likely you will get up before small, medium, large crowds, and you'll have to communicate with them. So that's number two. And three is you will have to, if you're at the end of your career, you will have to continue developing repertoire and a style that is consistent with your personal voice, that where you feel like you have something new to say. And that could mean, traditional repertoire, that could be playing new music, that could mean creating new music. And so that's part of it as well, is finding music that resonates with your heart. Because if you don't, you're out of balance. You need to find something that again supports your personality and music, and so your personality as a musician. And
that's basically finding your niche.
Yeah. And then finally, I'm very hyper about this with my students, is a process. People, that's the thing. That's where, you musicians get the, musicians are thought of as, flighty, they never carry through. It's all in the air. Well, I think the process is very important. You can live in a world of fantasy, imagination, and this and that can work together with a process that allows you to accomplish things in life. So it's very important that you write. Again, going back to writing, write down like what you want to do. Like, I want to record a CD. Okay, how are you going to do that? And really go in a surgical approach, step by step. How am I going to how am I going to get from the idea, the dream, to release day? And that is, many people just don't, they get lost because no one tells them about the process. And the process is it's all in the details. And the details are the part that drive everybody crazy, but it's ultimately it's the only way to accomplish. And I've seen it time and time again with my own career. If I let things, just sort of, if I just sort of wish upon a star, it's going to be a lot of wishing upon a stars. Which is really important though, because it's another thing that I have my students do, and that is every year I tell them, it's like a dream book. I want you to dream about what you want to accomplish that year, like who you want to be when you grow up, what you want to be, and write that down. And it doesn't matter how crazy it is, how expensive it is, how many hoops you have to jump through. It's so important that as musicians, we dream big. Forget the obstacles. We'll figure that out as we go through the process. So those are some important defining things that I think if people follow, it'll give them a fighting chance to a career in music.
Now, one of the things that, as you were telling your journey, which I think is an important part, and I've noticed, and it's in contrast to what I experienced growing up in Los Angeles, and that's where my world was before I moved to Oregon. And sometimes I wonder, whether that was the best choice for my music career, but it was the right choice for my life, as it turned out. But at the time when I grew up studying music, the aspect of being exposed and having opportunities to be in great master classes, to study with great people from Segovia, as you mentioned, Oscar, lots of people coming through Los Angeles, that was a very important part of the process, not because you were going to get the answer, but because you were going to hear the contrast of one person's approach versus another person's approach, one person's interpretation versus another person's interpretation of the same piece, and presenting ideas to you as a performer that if you were to get the most from that experience, you would need to be able to make it manifest in your playing at the spot in that masterclass.
Yeah.
And the desire to be selected to do that was an honor and a privilege. Today's world, a lot of guitarists that I've seen going through this, imagine that they've actually arrived there before they've even gotten through. They're 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 100 miles away from that spot and don't realize that they're nobody yet until they can get to that spot where they are able to appreciate the specialness of those performers that have created a repertoire of their own, even if it's similar to some other people's repertoire, same pieces sometimes, but a distinctive approach. What do you notice that aspect? To me, what it appears is that as if maybe we all felt that at some point, we were looking for affirmation, but it appears that a lot of guitarists are going to a masterclass assuming that they've arrived already and that they're going to be affirmed as opposed to being challenged. I mean, as we both know from our experiences with Oscar, that was not what his job was. In fact, he could be pretty tough on you. And I saw that aspect, but it was in pursuit of something, as you were mentioning, excellence. How do you have some words that would have to do with the approach of being able to take those experiences that you have? Not you can do all the imaginings, you can do all the practice, but it is when you're tested, and not by an adoring audience that know nothing about guitar and music, but by people who are at the top of their knowledge and wisdom and experience, and giving you something that can open a world to you if you happen to be open to it.
Yeah, well, you said it right there at the very end. You have to be open to it. I think it's curious, open, and adaptable. We as musicians, I mean, we're I think some of the most agile creatures in the world. We have to by necessity, and it's something that we're built to do. You know, when somebody in a master class tells us, try this or try that, you got to be able to do it on the spot. And I think creating a career is the same thing. You got to be adaptable. You got to be open to negative and positive feedback. You've got to be open to successes and moments where it's not going to work out. You have to be very resilient, and you have to look at the large arc, the phrase, the musical life phrase, so to speak, and know that it's not going to there's not any one moment that's going to define you. It's not like, okay, I played at Carnegie Hall, I've made it, it's done. The next day you could have you could lose your job. It's a compilation of so many life events that create a career. It's not any one thing. And so I think it's really a crescendo or a decrescendo, or there's it's a roller coaster. And I think persistence, resilience, and it sounds rhetorical, but it's true. Like it is there. You're going to have the most euphoric, and I tell this to all my students on day one. This is euphoria, but there are going to be huge moments of disappointment and huge moments of success and everything in between. And you have to be ready for that. And as much as you are ready, you won't be ready. And you have to be ready to fail. And to be disappointed, it's just part and parcel with being a musician. And so there's a certain spontaneity that's built into the career. But the beauty is, again, to go back to what I was saying, it's like all of this, you're creating something from nothing. And, that's basically been the motto of my entire career to date, is everything I've done is because of me. And it was the philosophies of my teachers and my parents and the community around me. And I incorporate them into producing something from my own voice, something that was personalized, and that was, an argument for young people to hopefully follow in the same path in their own way. And that's one of the greatest enjoyments, pieces of joy when teaching is finding what is so special about an individual and allowing that to blossom even further. And I think the other element of that's been really beautiful is, my entire life I've been so fortunate. I had parents who took me my lessons, gave me my instruments, paid for my instruments, gave me the framework to excel. Not everybody has that. In fact, most people don't. It always piqued my interest to find ways in which I could contribute to my community, not just my community, but the global community at large, and through classical guitar. And that gave way to Cathara Project, which is a nonprofit organization that I co-founded with my trio mates Scott Borg and Matt Rhode, and Matt and I are still running it today, 10 years later.
Yeah,
I
wanted to get to that question. I wanted to ask you about just a short bit about the Cathara Project, because we kind of now getting close to our end of our time, and also want you to be able to pitch your program, because they're going to be what do you have on the menu? So tell us, what do you have on the menu?
So I'm looking forward. I've got 3 performances in on the West Coast. I'm going to be performing Bach, Tedesco, Torina, Barrios, and some music by some new Spanish composers, Eduardo Morales Caso and Anton Garcia Abril, who was the late composer from Spain. And it's gonna be great. It'll be a nice mix of music that's really near and dear to my heart, and I think people really enjoy it. And there's some great hits, and then there's some music that will challenge and push the audience forward hourly.
Excellent. Well, we have a varied audience, university students and a general public, and some people who just simply love classical guitar and have been fans of the guitar all their life. So you'll have some things that will be familiar to them,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
giving your own interpretation and flair, and some new pieces. I noticed that you've been doing things in terms of your recording career over the years. You had fuller volumes of new Spanish music that you did.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that you got Tedesco on the program. I want to know what Tedesco piece you're going to be playing.
So there's a set of pieces from Platero EO that I will be
Excellent.
playing, which I love, and then also there's a notoriously difficult piece by him, the Suite, that many people don't know of. It's a gorgeous piece. It's a tour de force, and
Yes.
I'm looking forward to sharing that as well.
Great. I love the fact that you're going to put some Tedesco on the program, because we've got Cameron O'Connor. He does a lot of performances of Tedesco's music because of his um, friendship with Tedesco's daughter. And so in Los Angeles and on the East Coast, he's been doing things like that for a while. And they just did the guitar quintet that Tedesco wrote, as well as one of my students who you met years ago is doing the Fantasia for guitar and piano
Nice.
with her sister on piano. So great to be able to look forward to that. I think that Tedesco is one of the composers that um, deserves much more attention, and there's a lot of the repertoire that he composed that Segovia never really got around to. And some of the pieces that he's composed have, long overdue to be kind of uncovered. There's a lot of editing that has to be done because he wrote from the heart, and he figured that was someone else's job to go through and
Yeah,
similar the music of Tonsman. So I know that those are two composers that there's a huge sum of repertoire that we're now just now really getting a chance to see. So I'm glad to hear that. And Barrios, I think we've got lots of fans of Barrios's music. Um, so the one last thing I wanted to make sure that with the Katara project, just very brief, tell us what was the inspiration and um, how it's progressing now.
the inspiration is to provide access to classical guitar education to those who didn't have it before, who are marginalized or weren't in a socioeconomic bracket to be able to afford classical guitar lessons. And so this organization improves the lives of young people through the classical guitar. And we have these long-term sustainable program, high impact, tuition-free classical guitar programs that exist in Boston, which was one of the original two programs, and then in Mexico City, the other original program. And then we have a program in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and our most recent addition, which is it's almost a year old, I think, as of like a week ago, in Detroit. So we've got these four programs, and we serve approximately 130 students at these four sites, and we offer them the group classes, individual classes, performance opportunities, guest artist residencies, field trips to go to the local classical guitar society, and also cultural exchange opportunities to speak to other programs, the students of other programs. And this is all made possible with supporters, grant funding, And it's been a really beautiful evolution. Being able to create something again from nothing, from an idea, and to really spread our wings and to propel the musical gospel on the classical guitar, and it's been really beautiful and transformative, I think, for the people that we serve. And we've built a music school in Mexico City, and we intend on expanding more. So it's only the start. It's something. It's through persistence in the long game that we're still here today. And if people want to find out more about Cathara Project, they can go to catharaproject.org, KITHARA project.org, and they can find out more about us. If I may say so myself, it's a very beautiful organization.
Well, I congratulate you on its journey. I remember when we first met, it was still in the beginning stages, and there's a lot of networking that one has to do to be able to pull that together. I think your vision was good, and your association with other people to bring them in. We should probably, at some point in time in the near future, continue our conversation on an interview that focuses on music education, and in particular, equipping the next generation. And some of those people are perhaps in a Cathara project. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it also creates an economy for young guitarists to graduate. I mean, talking about answering, everybody's neuroses about getting jobs. We are answering that question by providing our young people with jobs. So it's really a beautiful snow globe of musical activity that brings young people into the world, supports our young superstars on the classical guitar, and is creating a better and more sensitive world.
Well, I'm all for all of that. I know we both have to go. We have students waiting for us, but it was a pleasure talking with you, and we'll sign off for now.